everybody, and welcome to Teen Tuesday. This week we are making daisy chain bracelets. To make the daisy chain bracelet, here are the supplies I'm going to be using. We have seed beads and a beading needle. I have thread. This is clear plastic beading string, but you can also use regular thread. 2 jump rings and a clasp. Needle nose pliers for adjusting the jump rings and clasp, and scissors for trimming my string. Since the beading wire is very thin and hard to see on the camera, I'm going to be using this neon yellow thread instead. So, step 1 in making our beaded bracelet is to attach one of the jump rings to the end of your string. Make sure that the jump ring is fully closed. So twist it until it is fully closed. There we go. And tie it to the end of your thread. There. Now, if you're using thread, it's useful to use the beading needle. If you're using the clear plastic filament, this plastic is stiff enough that you don't actually need to use the needle. But since you can't see the thread in this camera, I'm going to be using the beading needle with my neon yellow string. All right, put that out of the way. Now, this daisy chain is made up of 3 parts. There's the spacers in between the flowers, there are the flower petals, and then there is the flower center. You can choose to make every flower the same color, to make the spacers all the same color, to make everything totally different colors. That is your choice. Think about that now, because our first step is going to be adding 5 beads in our spacer. So, choose the color or colors you'd like to use for the spacing, and put 5 beads on your needle or your string. And pull that all the way to the end. There we go. Now, our next step is going to be making the petals on our first flower. Decide which color you'd like to use for your first flower petals, and use 8 beads of that color. And bring those down to the end of your string with the spacers. Now, let me zoom in. For the next step, in order to make the circle, that is a flower, we're going to go back through the beads again in the same direction. So, let me turn it this way since I'm right-handed. And we're going to go back through those beads in the same direction we went the first time. So starting with the first petal bead that you put on there, go back through all 8 of the petal beads. And pull your string. As you do, you'll notice it forms this loop, and then as you pull, the loop starts to close and form a circle. Now, to lock this shape in place, find that first bead again and go through that once. Just that one. And we now have our first flower petal circle locked in place. Now, choose which color you'd like for the center of your flower here, and grab 1 bead of that color. And pull it down towards your flower. Now, if you see, the thread is coming out of this opening right here. We want to make sure that our flowers are going to be symmetric. So when you pick up the bead and stick it in the middle, make sure that the thread comes out on the opposite side 4 beads away. So here is where it's coming out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here is where it's going to go back down. From here, we're going to choose this bead and we're going to go back through it once. All right. And as we do that, the center of that flower will lock into place. We should also have 1, 2, 3, 4 petals on one side and 1, 2, 3, 4 petals on the other side from where it meets the spacers. So we're on to our next section of spacers. Put 5 beads in the spacer color of your choice. And bring those down to meet your first flower. There we go. Now, we're gonna make our second flower. Choose the 8 beads of the color that you would like for your second flower's petals and put them onto your string. And slide them to meet the spacers. So I'm going to show you again how to make the flower. Go back to the first bead of those 8 and run your thread or string back through all of them in the same direction. And as you pull, it will start to pull down and form our loop. Lock it in place by passing through just the first bead in our flower petals. And that will lock it in place. Choose the color that you would like for the center of this flower and place 1 bead on your string and pull it down to the flower. Pop it in place. Make sure that where the string comes out, 4 beads away, is where the string will go back down. And we're going to cross through that bead there once to secure our center in place. So continue adding spacers and flowers until you have one daisy chain long enough to go around your wrist. Once your daisy chain is long enough, it's time to bring out the clasp. We're going to attach the clasp to the jump ring and then tie the jump ring to the end of our string right next to the last bead. So first, with jump rings, to open a jump ring, imagine this is the jump ring, right? You want to open it by twisting it open. Do not open the jump ring by pushing it open. This way, you'll never be able to get it closed completely again. This way, you can actually make it nice and snug when you squeeze them back together. So, open the jump ring and attach the clasp. And then close the jump ring again, nice and snug so that your string can't slide through the little crack there. Now, tie the jump ring to the end of your string. Once you have it nicely tight, what you can do with the extra, whether you're using the plastic filament or thread, is to weave it back through your bracelet at least part way so that you don't have an end hanging out. So go ahead and weave it back in through at least part of your bracelet. And when you've woven it back through as far as you'd like, trim off the extra. You can also weave the end on this side into the bracelet if you'd like, or just trim off the extra. And you've got a daisy chain bracelet. So now you have your own fantastic daisy chain accessory. Happy Tuesday, see you next week.